Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Tuesday night in Azeroth, and we have a great show lined up for you. We're going to be talking about the amazing finale to the Race to World First and how that was all pulled off. I'll tell you, honestly, I was kind of down on the race. I thought, oh, this isn't going to be very good. But then Blizzard pulled victory from the jaws of defeat. So, yeah, we're going to get into all that. Plus, I want to take a little bit of a deep dive into the lore of Midnight and what all of the revelations that came out of the last few raid cinematics, what they mean, what they could potentially infer for the future of Azeroth, for the World Soul Saga, for Midnight, just everything in general. All that is coming up tonight on Azeroth United. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Before I get into any of that, I will do a quick rundown of what I got up to last week in WoW. Sometimes I feel like maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I should just stick to talking about the news, but I do like to throw it in there a little bit, just in case people are curious what I'm doing. So obviously still raiding Classic, still raid leading in Classic. We're getting everything cleared on all of the raid content currently, which is great. One of the things that I'm kind of frustrated with is the way that Blizzard has implemented these heroics. And I talked about this before, but basically, if you're a raider and you want to get a couple of things from heroics, you can go do them. It's not a problem, but you don't have to get gear from, you could just run the raids and get gear from the raids and be good. Except that in order to do the next two raids, you have to run heroics. So that's where we are right now, is at the point where we need to actually get some people in, run some heroics, get people gear, or not get people gear, but get people attuned so that we can go into phase 2 whenever that happens to launch. And I'm still of the opinion that phase 2 will be another month and a half away, but Blizzard has not said a word about where that's going to be, so we don't know. It could be in a month and a half. It could be in 2 weeks. We have no idea. What I do think that is really important is that, there's a lot of people that play Classic that I lovingly refer to as sweat lords. That's my loving nickname for them. They got in there the first week. They ran the dungeons. They got their rep. They are revered or exalted with everything. And that's great. The guild that I'm in is not that type of guild, which I'm very grateful for, because I wouldn't be here if it was. I don't play that way. I can't play that way. I don't enjoy it. It's not something that I'm interested in doing. So we are trying to run our heroics and get our people attuned for Serpent Shrine Cavern and Tempest Keep, but it is a challenge because the heroics are hard. So Blizzard, in their wisdom, decided that they were going to release all the raids post-nerf, which means they're easy, and they were going to release the heroics pre-nerf, which means they're hard. So you actually need to go get raid gear from Karazhan and Gruul and Magtheridon in order to successfully run heroics. It's just, and some of them are easier than others. We did a Shattered Halls on Saturday, and man, that was brutal. We couldn't even get past the gauntlet. It was so hard. I'm gonna have to figure out some strategies for that, because yeah, it was a challenge. But getting in there and running the heroics, getting people attuned, that's kind of the focus right now. Again, we don't know when phase 2 is going to release for Burning Crusade. It could be in 6 weeks, but we want to be ready regardless. So that was kind of the main bulk of the raid activity for the week, or the end game activity. I am still working on my Paladin, who's 46. I ran this is really funny to me anyway. I ran Oldamon. Is Oldamon? Like, there's so many whatevers. Oldamon group on my Paladin as a tank. And we went in there, and it was a good group. We had some good people in there, but we had a warrior who was like supercharged. It was like 44, and this dude was way OP for the rest of us. And so we went in there, and I tanked every mob except for the 1 or 2 mobs that he felt like he was going to tank. So we basically double tanked it, which worked. I mean, we cleared it super fast. Oldamon is one of those that usually takes an hour or so. we were done in 30 minutes. So that was really good. I felt good about that. Really not sure about the paladin. I guess low level is tough because you don't have the gear that you need to generate threat properly, and so that's always going to be a challenge. But yeah, aside from that, it was good. Had a good week. I did log on to retail a little bit, did some delves, did my professions. I'm just trying to keep up on stuff because I know me, and what's going to happen is I'm going to get to a point where it's like, man, I really want to play retail, and if I haven't been doing that stuff, I'm going to regret it. So I am trying to keep up with it, trying to keep up with the story the best that I can, and whatnot. But yeah, it's been a good week, and looking forward to some WoW this weekend. Hopefully, we'll see how it goes. I never know with the IRL how things are going to go. One thing I wanted to say before I get into the news is I really. If for anybody out there that wonders what it's like behind the scenes to run a podcast, you go, hey, what's it like to run a podcast? Is it hard? Is it easy? How does it work? I'll tell you, I love technology. I love computers. That's what I do for work. I'm really big into all sorts of tech. I hate audiovisual. It's the worst. Trying to get the correct sounds on the microphone or the adjust the pitch or the whatever. I can't even with that stuff. And then add video onto it. It's really frustrating. So I took a break from doing video because I was like, I need to just kind of step back and not be frustrated every week when it comes time to film or record my podcast. But sometimes you have to make the decision that's best for the show. And in this case, obviously, if nobody's watching this on YouTube, it doesn't really matter. But I do enjoy putting out the video for the podcast. And so if you are on YouTube or Spotify video, you're going to see the video that I recorded for this. But if you are not, it's okay, because podcasts should be audio first. That should be the main goal, is to have a good quality audio experience. And then the rest you can throw in later. But yeah, it's I had to take some time and go, I'm not gonna stress myself out over this. I'm gonna enjoy this experience, because I do enjoy getting on here and talking about World of Warcraft. I just don't like the technical side of it. So I wish I could just hire somebody to do it for me, but goals, #goals, right? Anyway, that's about it. That's all I did last week. I was going to do an update on the Ironforge Pro to see where we were on the populations of the different versions of WoW, but they haven't updated yet since last week. So I don't know if it's just taking a long time, or if the people who are doing it aren't, it's a website where they do this for free, and it's really cool that they do it. But sometimes it's like, well, I kind of wanted to know those numbers, and I don't know how to do it myself. So anyway, yeah, I'm really curious to see how things are after we've had a few weeks of Burning Crusade. And then we just got phase 4 in Mist of Pandaria as well. So I'm curious to see how that affects the population, and if it's continuing to decline. Anyway, but that's not updated, so I'm not going to do that segment. So I don't know why I just talked about it for the last minute. But anyway, let's get on with the news.
It's time for the news.
In Blizzard news, there was a winners were announced for the 2025 art contest. So Blizzard does a contest every year where they have students submit their art in different categories for them to look at. They vote on them and come up with a winner. So there's a winner and a runner-up for each of the different categories, and the winners of the main prize for each of the categories, they get a Wacom Syntac Pro 24, a 1-hour mentorship session with a Blizzard artist, which is kind of cool, a 1-year subscription to WoW, also very cool, 1 Blizzard Entertainment sketchbook, and a Blizzard Entertainment t-shirt. So that's a fun little thing. Some of the submissions were amazing, I have to say, going through them, and I was like, this is really impressive. I'm always so on the fence between people doing art. And then, you see so much AI art these days. And a lot of artists are saying, well, AI is going to kill traditional artists. And I mean, maybe one day it'll get good enough to do that. I don't know. I feel like one of the problems that I have with AI art is just it has no soul. And some of this art, some of it, obviously, it's not designed to have like an emotional experience. It's just a cool thing that you can do. But still, I really like that Blizzard is encouraging this. And obviously, it's a good way to introduce people to the company and maybe even funnel some people in after they finish school. So, so they can go work for low pay. But art is a thing that we need to hold on to as a people. Artistic expression is so important for us, just from a societal standpoint. And even if it does turn out that at some point in the future, art is not a valid career because we can have AI do all of that for us. Maybe that is the case. Maybe that is our future. I don't know. But I still feel like having the ability to express yourself through art is important and valid, and that people should do it, even if it's just for fun. This is part of my artistic expression is I'm doing a podcast and I'm talking, and yeah, I'm not drawing things or I'm not creating videos or whatever. But it is type of artistic expression. And I think that that's very important, and that we don't let AI frighten us out of something that, we don't want to lose a world famous artist because they were intimidated by AI when they were in school. So that's my point there. Anyway, the 4 categories were environment art, character art, VFX, and animation. It was really good. The environment art, especially. I mean, I love environment art in WoW. The backgrounds and screensavers or wallpapers from World of Warcraft are some of the best of any game, because art style in WoW is so good, or at least I really love the art style in WoW. A lot of games that people say, well, this game is really good, and then I look at it and the art style, it just doesn't work for me. Final Fantasy 14 is a really good example of that. I didn't like the art style in Final Fantasy 14, and maybe I just wasn't used to it, but yeah, I didn't care for it. So another game that I really like the art style on is EVE Online. The way that they design the ships and things like that, I really like the way that they did it. So to me, that's really important. But the character art obviously is really important too, because you want to get that you don't want to create a character that feels lifeless. It's got to have a soul. It's got to have something that feels emotional when you look at a character. And I think that was really important. And the art that was submitted really did a good job with that. The VFX and the animation, yeah, it's more just how good are you at animating these things and doing the different computer programs. But there is an artistic element to it. I can use Photoshop, but I can't create art in Photoshop. I can create images in Photoshop, but art, I'm not an artist. So at least not in that way. So congratulations to all the winners. And I think it's really cool that they're continuing to do this. All right. Moving on, let's talk about Classic. So just one little news item in Classic. Blizzard increased the amount of honor that you're getting in Battlegrounds for the anniversary servers. They say, greetings, champion. We've been closely monitoring both player feedback and in-game data around honor gains in Battlegrounds, and we agree that the current pace of honor earned isn't quite what we want it to be. To address this, we've significantly increased honor earned from all Battlegrounds via a hotfix that is now live. Thanks again for taking the time to share your feedback with us. So, I mean, that's good, I guess. Battlegrounds right now, I don't have the brain capacity for it in anniversary. But I do enjoy running Battlegrounds, especially in the older versions of WoW and the classic versions. So, modern Battlegrounds is not fun. I don't like modern PvP at all. But the old stuff, yeah, that was pretty fun. So I might check that out. I don't know. It's not like I need the gear, but if it's fun, it's fun. Gear is not always the driving force behind what I do in game. So, all right. So this is a little bit about the upcoming patch 12.0.5. So there were a few items that were done, these limited time promotions. And we talked about the one a couple weeks ago that was, God, I don't even remember what it was now. But people are upset that these things come out and then you can't get them right away. Or you're not able to get them because you live in the wrong region, or because it was limited time, you didn't have enough time to get it, or whatever it is. It looks like these are going to start making their way onto the trading post. Blizzard did say that was a thing, but the ones that were data mined are the Classic Sunny Tabard, which was a Kroger rewards promotion, Little Flameo from the Steel series and WoW collaboration, Parlock, which was a Discord cross-link promotion, the Sand Scarab, which was a WoW trading card game and Twitch drop promotion, and the Hate Forge Blaze Cycle, which was from the Mountain Dew and WoW collaboration. So those are all going to be, or at least they were data mined to be on the trading post. We'll see. Blizzard did say they were going to do this, but we didn't get any more information other than that. So this is all just speculation, but it looks like we're going to be getting those. So don't worry. If you don't need to drink a bunch of Mountain Dew, you can just wait and it'll show up on the trading post eventually. I mean, obviously, if you get the promotion, then it's free, ? I mean, you did pay for all that Mountain Dew, but, it's up to you. I'm not here to judge your Mountain Dewness. So there you go. One other thing that I wanted to mention really quickly is the Arena World Championships is kicking off tomorrow as I speak. By the time you listen to this, it'll be already Wednesday. But it's kicking off Wednesday. What they're going to do is each week, so you have 3 cups, and each cup is going to be 1 week off. And so each cup is going to begin on Wednesday, and there's going to be an offline bracket with a double elimination. And then the top ranking teams are going to compete in the cup to like a top 8 tournament, basically. So you have 6 European teams on Friday, 6 North American teams matches on Saturday. And then the final matches for each region is going to be on Sunday. So what'll happen is the top 8 teams are going to move on to the next phase of the tournament. And it's going to be 3 automatic berths, and then 5 teams will compete for the final 4th slot. So yeah, good luck with that. But yeah, Cup 1 starts this week, April 10th through the 12th. Cup 2 will be April 17th through the 19th, and Cup 3 will be May 1st through May 3rd. And don't forget that the finale for both the Arena World Championships and the Mythic Dungeon International will be at BlizzCon. So it'll be several months away, but and to me that's a little weird because a lot of things can happen in 5 months. So I mean, I don't know. It seems like a long way to go, but there's a lot of money on the line for the winners, and so we'll talk a little bit more about this later. But it's all starting today. If you want to check it out, you can watch it starting on Friday on Twitch or YouTube. You can check out the streams and see what's going down with the arena in Midnight Season 1. And just a reminder, I wanted to say that because of this, because we are doing the Arena World Championships and Mythic Dungeon International at BlizzCon for the finales, it's actually kind of weird. So Season 1 for Midnight launched on March 17th. BlizzCon will be on September 12th. So that's going to be 26 weeks from launch of Season 1 to the finale of these. Now, that seems long, and I did mention this before. It's a long time, but my guess is that after BlizzCon is going to be the launch of Season 2. And so it feels a little weird, the timing to me, but I guess, you got to book these things in advance, and you don't know how everything's going to line up, and it's just lining up this way. So, Season 1 looks like it's going to be a little long. Maybe Season 2 will be a little short. I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's talk about the Race to World first. So, first of all, I was really frustrated with the Race to World first because I was like, okay, they killed Ilaria really fast. The Dream Rift boss was like, the Hall of Fame is already full. I thought, this is terrible. What a disaster this is going to be as for a Race to World first. This is not fun. This is not interesting at all. But I was still watching it. I was like, all right, let's see. And then Beleren took a few pulls. I think Liquid did over 100 pulls on Beleren. So, which is the giant Phoenix boss that comes, which is the penultimate boss in this raid tier. And then you have the final boss, which is Lura, which is the Naru that was inside of, like I said, spoilers. We're going to do a lot of spoilers here. Lura was the Naru that was inside of Valeria that we first encountered in the Seat of the Triumvirate, and then Ilaria consumed, essentially, and then Xal'atath cut it out of her, and now we're fighting this Naru, and that's the final boss of the raid tier. So cool. So we're going in, and we're fighting the Naru boss. And, the last time we had a Naru boss was, TBC, in the Sunwell. Which was Muru. So, I mean, it's, I was like, all right, this is fun. The fight looks interesting. And I thought, okay, well, we'll see how this goes. And so they started pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. If you haven't watched any of the fight, I'll try and explain to you. So the opening sequence is so difficult. Phase 1 is so hard that the guilds they would get a pull in phase 3, close to getting this thing all the way down, and the next pull it would wipe at 85%. It was really bad. There's a lot going on. The boss will throw glaives, and you have to dodge the glaives, and then there's a big beam you have to there's a lot of area denial in this fight. There's the memory game that you have to do, so you've got to do it in a certain order. I mean, there's a lot going on that I'm going to explain poorly, so I'll stop trying to explain the fight. Regardless, I was watching it, and Liquid was doing really well. They had a really good pull. They got down to the single digits, and it was like, oh, this is going to be it. This is going to be it. They got it. They got the boss to 0 health and started cheering, and then realized, oh shit, there's a secret phase. Secret mythic phase. We haven't seen one of these since the Sanctum of Domination in Shadowlands. Is how long it's been since we had the secret mythic phase for Sylvanas. In normal and heroic, you have to get her to 50%, but in mythic, she keeps going and you have to get her to 45%. That wasn't a big deal. This one, the secret phase, is a pretty big deal because you're still having to coordinate different things. You've got these little star things that shoot out and you're going to hit people. So you've got to you get 3 of them at a time. You have to stand in a tiny little light circle that's on the ground, and you've got to dodge them. So you got to move everybody out one at a time. It looks complicated, but so they got the secret phase, and this is getting late in the evening. So they wiped. So they went back. They tried it again. They couldn't get back to the secret phase. They tried over and over and over again. Echo went to bed, and Liquid went into the evening. And I think that their thought was, if we go to bed, Echo's going to wake up tomorrow morning and kill it, and we're going to lose the race. But eventually the call was made to go to bed because you can't keep going forever. And like I said, phase 1 is hard. So getting back to that secret phase was tough. So they went to bed, and Liquid was fully expecting to wake up the next day and have Echo be the winners of the race. Well, Echo started doing the same thing where they would pull, and they would have a really good pull. They'd get into the secret phase, and then they'd wipe, and then they would have 10 wipes in a row where they couldn't get out of phase 1. It's a rough fight. By the time Liquid got up that day, I think Echo had a 45% pull on the secret phase or something like that. Anyway, so they both started going at it, and both struggling, trying to get back to the secret phase. One would get to it, and then another would get to it. Liquid had a wipe at, I don't know, it was sub 10% in the secret phase. Echo did, and then Liquid had a few good pulls. But one thing that they changed a few pulls in, or part of the way into their raid day, was one of their tanks was on a blood DK because you needed the grips. They decided to switch him to a feral or guardian. I've been playing too much classic. They switched him to a guardian druid. And remember, these guys all have like 25 alts, right? So they switched him to a guardian druid. He came in. the Guardian Druid's damage increased by a significant amount. I think somebody said it was like 30 or 40,000 damage, or DPS that he was doing more. So that really helped, because one of the big things in this fight is there's a lot of damage checks going into it. So eventually Liquid got in. They got into secret phase. They had a perfect pull. The only loss they had on the pull was the shaman, who onked right away, and eventually they killed it. So Liquid is your Midnight Season 1 Race to World First champion. It's really tough because normally you say the raid, but saying just the raid, it's like, well, yeah. But yes, they were the first to kill the final boss of March on Quel'Danas, and that was it. Echo went to bed shortly after that, because there's no sense in pushing yourself if you've already lost the race. And the number 3 team, Method, hadn't even made it to the secret phase yet. So Echo went to bed, got up the next day, and killed the boss. So yeah, you have 1 and 2 as of now. Those are the only 2 that have completed the boss. But yeah, what a race. I think Liquid had 457 pulls. I think it was the final total, which is the 3rd most of a final boss in of all time. So I think the only 2 bosses that had more pulls were Unat from Crucible of Storms, which was a ridiculous fight, and then Kil'jaeden from the Tomb of Sargeras. So there you go. That was the Race to World First, and it was a doozy. The drama, the back and forth, people were really excited this time around. We've had some races that it's like, oh, there's some good competition going back and forth, but the whole, oh, they got to go to sleep, and are we going to wake up and have lost the race? Or it was really exciting. I was really excited watching it. I had a good time. I actually let out a little yell when Liquid killed it, but yeah, it was a good race. I really liked it. It started off so bad, and the bosses were just falling, and the fights weren't interesting, and it was like, what are we doing here? This is so weird. But then we got to March on Quel'Danas, and that's where the difficulty ramped up. That's where the excitement started. The final boss fight is so interesting. I would not want to do it, but it looks so cool. What they have to go through, and I mean, like I said, I could explain it poorly, but I'm gonna just leave it there. Watch the video. They put up the video of the entire poll, and it's definitely worth watching, because it's so interesting to see how, not just how they strategized everything, but how perfect they had to play the entire time. You cannot lose people if you have a DPS check. So yeah, it was really good. And congratulations, Team Liquid. That's their 4th in a row. As of right now, Echo has not won a Race to World First since Varak, to give you some perspective on that. That was the last time they won the Race to World First. So yeah, hopefully Echo does a little bit better next time. Yeah, this one is in the books. So congratulations to Team Liquid. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, let's move on to what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. The bonus event for this week is the Midnight Dungeon event. This is the you're going to get the Sign of the Warrior buff. The final boss of each Midnight Dungeon will drop an extra item. This is the one that's really weird because it does not apply to Keystone dungeons. But yeah, if you want to get something from a Mythic Zero, like a champion piece of gear, you can do that. You can also pick up the quest Emissary of War from Archmage Aethys Sunreaver in Silvermoon to complete 4 dungeons on Mythic difficulty, and you'll be rewarded with a Hero Track raid item. So that's some good incentive there. The PvP brawl for the week is Terran Mill versus South Shore. Originally introduced as part of the World of Warcraft 10-year anniversary event, this brawl harkens back to the early days of WoW PvP, with an epic battle between the two towns of Terran Mill and South Shore. In this game of war, you'll need to work as a team and deplete your foe's resources to claim victory. This one's classic. I did this back in the day when it was just running around and killing each other for no reason. But yeah, this one's really fun. When you zone in, you'll get the quest Something Different to win a PvP brawl, and you'll be rewarded with Conquest Honor and Marks of Honor. The Darkmoon Fair is in town currently. Started this past Sunday on April 5th, and it will continue until Saturday, April 11th. So yeah, come and get your knowledge points and some skill points if you haven't maxed out your trade skills. Apparently the reputation is not working for midnight reputations. I don't know why, but it's not. So yeah, if you go to the fair and you ride the roller coaster or the merry-go-round, then you're not going to get bonus reputation, but you will get bonus XP if you're leveling an alt. So that's really cool too. So just kind of a bummer that it's not giving you reputation buff, but I understand they're trying to extend out the renown tracks. So and then finally, Noble Garden is in town. If you want to go stare at some eggs or stare at some walls and wait for eggs to spawn, then you can do that now through April 13th. And that's it. That's what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. All right, let's move on to our main topic of the week.
It's time for the main topic of the week.
All right. So like I said before, this is going to be very spoiler heavy. So we're going to break down the trailer or the cinematic, and we're also going to talk about some of the lore implications of what everything means. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, then now's the time, because that's what we're going to be doing for the next however long. Okay. So after the raid after Lura is killed, then Xal'atath shows up and starts yelling at Eretor and Verisa, "You windrunners, you just don't know when to lay down and die." And I'm really kind of unclear as to her motivation here. Like, why is she constantly harassing them? Just zap them or something. But she's threatening them. "I'm Xal'atath." And suddenly an arrow flies in from off screen that Xal'atath barely dodges, and it hits one of her orbs, destroying it. It's a very violent scene. And I felt like the way it was framed, you're supposed to think, oh, it's Ilaria, because she's the one with the arrows and she shot the arrow. And but the camera cuts over and you see emerging from a maw portal, Sylvanas. That's right, Sylvanas Windrunner has shown up to save the day. There you go. It's one of those moments that I think a lot of people probably went, "Oh, come on," because they're, Sylvanas was such a cool and interesting character that got a little bit ruined by Blizzard during the Battle for Azeroth Shadowlands era. But, I think they're trying to redeem her. They're trying to bring her back and make her interesting again. And I think that's good, because I think World of Warcraft is better when you have interesting characters. That's just the way it is. So Sylvanas is back. At least she's back in the story. But what's really interesting here is the way that this plays out in the cinematic. So I want to be really specific with this dialogue. So I'm going to read this line by line, and we're going to analyze it. So Sylvanas says in response to Xal'atath, "Why don't you just lay down and die, you windrunners?" Sylvanas says, we windrunners are just stubborn that way." And Sylvanas, and Xal'atath says, "You, I honestly didn't factor for you." Now, right off the bat, we've got something interesting. She has the way that she kind of frames this. It's like, "Oh, well, I wasn't expecting this," which means that everything that has happened, she's like, "Oh yeah, I've already figured out how I'm going to deal with Ilaria and Locust Walker and all of the things that she's done so far." She's got a plan for it, at least some semblance of a plan. But Sylvanas showing up has completely thrown her off her game. And as this continues to play out, it becomes, I feel like it becomes evident why. So she's like, "I honestly didn't factor for you." Sylvanas starts walking towards her, and as she walks, the camera shows her feet, and you can see the little maw magic, the necromantic death magic emanating from her feet as she walks. And Sylvanas says, "Death comes for all, Xal'atath, even your wretched kind." Which, again, is she saying your wretched kind, you void person, or your wretched kind? Does she know something that we don't about Xal'atath's history? Xal'atath told Nexus King Saladar her backstory, but was that even true? We don't know. So yeah, she starts walking towards her, and the camera intentionally shows that maw magic coming off of Sylvanas' boots as she's walking. Xal'atath does a big sigh and an eye roll and says, "We'll finish this another time, perhaps," and bounces. She regenerates her orb. She disappears into the void drill that's, trying to corrupt Azeroth. And that's it. That's the end of their interaction. But there's so much nuance there. And I feel like, first of all, having a standoff between these two was great. Because, think about it. Sylvanas was a larger-than-life character for many years in WoW. And especially going into Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands, she turned into this monster that we were all like, oh my god, why is Sylvanas being such a bitch? But part of that was just she was written weird, but part of it is I think she became more than just an undead blood elf. She became this maw-powered creature. To what extent she still has those powers, I'm not sure, but she did create a maw portal. She does have maw magic emanating from her boots as she walks. I don't know. She didn't shoot out her maw chains at Xal'atath, but not that it would have mattered, but still, it's really interesting. And so you have these two characters who both have been in kind of this frustrating players sort of way, right? Xal'atath with her schemes and, oh, Ilaria, it's been such a blast. A lot of people get frustrated with that because they're like, just tell us what's happening. And so I think having this between the two of them, it's like, oh, it's like Freddy versus Jason, right? When they actually show up to fight each other, you're like, oh, this is going to be interesting. So yeah, obviously Xal'atath leaves, but her line, "We'll finish this another time, perhaps," to me is so Xal'atath, because she's like, yeah, maybe, but not now. And the whole idea that she's actually scared of Sylvanas because of the maw magic. So we know that the void is frightened of death, and we'll get into all the cosmological implications of this as we go. But yeah, Xal'atath, I feel like she tried to play it off, act like, oh, whatever, I don't care. But secretly she was like, I better get the fuck out of this bitch, because this maw creature is going to kill me. So Xal'atath leaves, the drill disappears, and the Void Army is now inside of Azeroth doing who knows what to our beloved World Soul. So now the camera focuses back on Sylvanas and Varisa, and Varisa looks at Sylvanas and she looks angry, like she's about to punch her. But then of course she moves in and she gives Sylvanas a big hug. Sylvanas at first is like, oh, you're touching me, this is weird. But then she kind of relaxes into the hug. She does not hug back, which I believe is important. She does not hug Varisa back, but she does allow Varisa to hug her, and the tension melts away from her. The animation of this is so good. The Blizzard has done such a great job with these cinematics. Anyway, then Erator jumps in with, oh, I thought you... Okay, this is really important, because first Erator, he's even though he's a man, he still sounds like a boy. I thought you said you could never leave the maw. So now Sylvanas says, there are ways, nephew, but they do take their toll. Regardless, you told me that Silvermoon was in peril, that it needed its Ranger General one last time. First of all, they do take their toll is very important, because what is exactly happening? How did Sylvanas get here? What magics did she need to use? It reminds me of the line in Avengers, the first Avengers movie, when Thor shows up on Earth trying to track down Loki, and Loki asks him, how much dark energy did the All-Father have to use to summon you here? Because remember, they had destroyed the Bifrost in the Thor movie, in the first Thor movie. They destroyed the Bifrost. It hadn't been rebuilt yet. So that means that Odin had to use dark magic to get Thor to Earth to go retrieve Loki. And so it kind of made me think of that as the same vibe, because it's like, okay, well, obviously she can't just create a maw portal for funsies, right? It had to take a toll somehow. What that toll is, I don't know. Maybe she sacrificed Tyranda's little owl. Who knows? But she came to rescue Silvermoon, which, okay. But then she didn't really do anything except for scare away Xal'atath, which I guess that's enough. But yeah. So then she says it needed its Ranger General one last time. In other words, yeah, I'm not coming back to Silvermoon. This is it. And maybe she will, who knows? But I think that Sylvanas is now in her final character arc. We've seen the rise, we've seen the villain turn, we've seen her downfall and her penance in the maw. But I think this is the beginning of her final story arc. Barisa says, Sylvanas, if the maw cannot hold you, then maybe there's a way back for you, back to us. And Sylvanas drops the final lore bomb here. She says, my penance, my true work, has only begun, little sister. The Shadowlands are not at all what they seem. I cannot rest until I've uncovered the truth. Still, I hope to see you both again before the end begins. All right, now, we've known for a long time that the Shadowlands something was off. Something was wrong. But we couldn't quite figure it out. We thought maybe Blizzard just did a bad job of retconning what the Shadowlands was. We weren't really sure. It was a weird time in WoW. And remember, this isn't like, hey, this is really happening. This is somebody's writing this as a story. So we're trying to understand the story beats and know what the intention of the writers was. So yeah, I can't rest. My penance has only just begun. The Shadowlands are not at all what they seem. Again, that's a lot to unpack, but we're going to leave it there. And then she says, I cannot rest until I've uncovered the truth. So now she's like full on detective mode. And I thought about this a lot, because I was like, if I was going to compare Sylvanas to another fictional detective, because at first I was going to say, oh, she's turning into Sherlock Holmes. But Sylvanas is not Sherlock Holmes. If anything, I would say Sylvanas is akin to Batman, where she's going to figure things out and she's going to put things together in a way that nobody else would. I mean, I don't know if Sylvanas as Batman or Batwoman in this case, whatever. But, and then she says, I hope to see you both again before the end begins. In other words, there's something coming and she wants to be back before that happens, before it starts, whatever is kicking off. And we're assuming that's going to be the Titans showing up to defend their baby world soul that they've put in place. We don't know. We don't know how this is going to work. We don't know what. We have no idea. All we can do is speculate, which is what we're going to do right now. So if you remember the cosmological chart that Blizzard released with Chronicle Volume 1, I think it was back in Legion when they released this, it gave us a nice, pretty little chart that shows all the different cosmological forces that are at play and how they relate to each other. Now, it's just a chart. It's just a drawing, a representation of this. They aren't actually in a fixed location, but it is interesting how they positioned them, because it shows you how these different things are interconnected with each other. So the 6 cosmological forces are light, which is like holy. An example they give here is the Naru. You have disorder, which is Fel, and the Burning Legion. You have death, which is necromantic, and that is undead. You have shadow, which is shadow or void, and then you've got the void lords and old gods. You have order, which is arcane, and that's the titans. And then finally you have life, which is nature, and that's the wild gods. So these are the 6 forces that are at play here that Blizzard has already given us. So they're kind of telegraphing what they're doing here. Now we know from lines, and I forget where the exact line was, but basically we know that the void is scared of the Shadowlands. I think it might have been in Xal'atath's lore walking. Anyway, regardless, we know that the void is scared of death, or the Shadowlands, or whatever, however that's built, right? But what exactly is the Shadowlands, we don't know, because let's not forget that we all felt uncomfortable with it too when it first launched. We're like, really, this is the afterlife? But one of the things that I forget who said this on Reddit. Somebody said it on Reddit. It doesn't matter. random Redditor said that one of the things that's really interesting about this is you have 3 of these forces that are structured, that are organized, and have some sort of, they make sense from a, I don't want to say order, because order is one of the forces, but they're all very ordered. So you have light, you have order, and you have death. These are the 3 that are structured. Then you have 3 that are more chaotic in form. You have disorder, you have shadow, and you have life. And you might say, well, life, isn't that a good one? Well, yes, but life in and of itself is chaotic. Think about the roots of the world tree. They just go wherever. There's no order. There's no structure to it. It's one of the reasons why Aman'Thul was so angry when Freya planted the first world tree, because it wasn't ordered. It wasn't structured. It was chaotic. He didn't like that. So Aman'Thul is trying to create this very ordered, very structured system in place. And on the other side of that, you have Sargeras, who was trying to create disorder with not just his fell, but there are other forces in there that are disordered as well. So these 6 forces, they all kind of interact with each other, and obviously you have the opposites. You have light and shadow, you have disorder and order, and then you have death and life. And so these all kind of interrelate with each other. And if you look at the chart, it all kind of makes sense. It is a little confusing at first, and it's done very flourishy with some artistic flair, not AI. So one other thing that's really interesting in this that I really like is how the different cosmological forces combine to create the elements that we are familiar with. So like holy and fell, on the chart, it shows fire in between them. Fell and necromantic, it shows air between them. Necromantic and shadow, it shows decay between them. Shadow and arcane, it shows earth. Arcane and nature shows water. And nature and holy is spirit. So I just really like the way that Blizzard did this. They put some thought into it. Obviously, they tried to retcon it a little bit with the Shadowlands and change it around, but just what they said is that this is from the view of the Titans. These other cosmological charts are views from other people, but we'll stick with the Titan one because that's where this story is going. It's going to the Titans. We literally know that the Titans are going to show up because the next expansion is called The Last Titan. Chris Metzen stood on the stage at BlizzCon 2023 and said, "At Ulduar, when the Titans arrive." So we know how this is going to play out. We know we're going back to Northrend. We know we're going to go to Ulduar. We know the Titans are going to arrive. We know that Eruditokron wants to punch them in the face. So where do we go now? Well, there's one thing that this cosmological chart has that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's the very center where we have listed reality, which looks like a globe with the map of Azeroth on it. So that's basically saying this is Azeroth. And then to the left of it, over near the life or the nature side, is the Emerald Dream, which we know is a alternate life version of Azeroth, right? It's like, oh, that's the nature-y, greenified life magic version of Azeroth. We went there in Dragonflight, and there have been many interpretations of the Emerald Dream before, but it was more just the discussion. If you recall the green dragons in vanilla, they were coming through portals that were in the Emerald Dream. So we have that. And then next to it on the other side, closer towards death, we had Shadowlands. Now, throughout the history of WoW, the Shadowlands was where we went when we died. So as player characters, we die, we run back to our body. When we're running back to our bodies, and it's in that, shadowy grave, that's the Shadowlands. So when Blizzard released the Shadowlands expansion, it was like, this is not what we are all familiar with as the Shadowlands. So let's get into the Shadowlands now and why it is that the Shadowlands were created by the Titans. Let's finish this thought before I move on. You have real Azeroth in the center. You have the life version of Azeroth, which is the Emerald Dream on one side. You have the death version of Azeroth, which is the Shadowlands on the other side. These are all versions of Azeroth. You can walk around in the Emerald Dream. If you could have a portal just to go anywhere you wanted in the Emerald Dream, it would be the same thing in regular Azeroth, except it would be very, very much more nature-y and life-y. And then the same thing with the Shadowlands. If anytime you die, you go to the Shadowlands. Sometimes there was a quest giver in the Shadowlands that you can only talk to him when you were dead, unless you were playing hardcore. So we've been to the Shadowlands a lot. Most of us have been to the Shadowlands many times. But what Blizzard gave us in the Shadowlands expansion, it altered everything. And so now that we go back to Sylvanas' line where she says the Shadowlands are not at all what they seem. So what is the Shadowlands? First of all, if you didn't play the Shadowlands expansion, bless you, you lucked out. The Shadowlands expansion itself was great in terms of the art and the music and the theming. I loved the different zones all had a very distinct feel. I loved Ardenweald. It was probably one of my favorite zones ever. That's why I have the Ardenweald music is the outro for the podcast, because I love it so much. Some of the other zones were a little weird, but overall, the Shadowlands had this very weird, very odd vibe to it. What is the whole point of this? First of all, if you die, you go to the Shadowlands, where you are back alive, but in a different realm. But if you die in the Shadowlands, you die for good. And it's like, wait a minute. So you could die and then die again, and then what? You just go away? It felt odd. It felt weird. It doesn't feel like if from a, every religion, every, belief system on Earth that we have has some version of an afterlife, even if that afterlife is, you go back into the ground and you feed the, you fertilize the soil or whatever. There's something, there's an innate human desire to want to know what happens to us when we die. And so this weird Shadowlands thing, I think, rubbed some people the wrong way. It was a cool idea, and I'm glad that they tried something. And if this is their way of kind of fixing it, cool. But I think that they dropped these seeds in early where they said, hey, the Shadowlands were created by the first ones. The first ones. Yeah, this is a new group of people that we've never met before. The first ones created the Shadowlands, and they put everything in place. So if you remember when we went into the Sepulchre raid, the Sepulchre of the first ones, we're in Zereth Mortis, right? Which is the kind of factory of creating the Shadowlands. And so when we were there, we fought the kind of, early versions of the 4 bosses. We had the Archon, which is Carestia, the leader of the Kyrian in Bastion. We had the Primus, who was the leader of the Necrolords in Maldraxxus. We had the Winter Queen, who was the leader of the Night Fae in Ardenweald. And we had the Sire, Denathrius, who was the leader of the Venthyr in Revendreth. We fought them, the prototype versions of those 4 bosses, right? Because at the end of the day, they were all constructs. They were robots that were created for a purpose that we still don't quite know. And the jailer, who was actually the original arbiter, Zoval, was also one of these constructs that when you defeat the jailer at the end of the Sepulchre raid, he turns back into a construct. He's just a robot. And so somebody created these constructs. Who loves to create constructs? The Titans. That's right. So this whole myth of the first ones, this magical race of beings that we don't know, that created the Eternal Ones and created the Shadowlands and did all of these things, it's all a lie. It's the Titans. I'm telling you right now, the Titans created all of this. There was so many Titan feeling things in the Shadowlands where it was like, this feels a little Titan-y, but okay, whatever. Yeah, so I think that's where we're going. And I think that's what the story is leading towards in terms of, just kind of the overall vibe of, okay, we got this, the Titans are here. There's this big conspiracy that Chris mentions. We're going to figure out what that conspiracy is. I think what happened is the Titans created the Shadowlands as a way to kind of divert people who have died. They use the Kyrians to go capture them, essentially, and bring them to the Shadowlands, where they are then harvested for their energy, for their life energy that they are able to get after this person has died, and that's where the anima comes from, and that's what the Shadowlands is doing. They're harvesting this energy from people and storing it for, yes, powering the Shadowlands, but also other things. Because are the Titans building like a Death Star or something so they can fly around space and shoot void planets or something? What exactly is it that the Titans, or that, let's say it's not the Titans, let's say the first ones. Okay, fine. What was the point of the Shadowlands? Why are we collecting all of this energy? Yes, it powers the Shadowlands, but then what? You just show up and you have a new job, and what is the goal here, right? This is like if you watch the TV series Loki, where they have to go to the TVA, and so you have all these people who have been essentially abducted and taken to the TVA, have to function outside of time so that they can keep track of time. It's kind of this weird, and yes, it's all fiction and they don't have an answer for every question ever. I get that. But we're talking about where this story is about to go, because this was the first season, the first raid tier of Midnight. We've got 2 more raid tiers, which means, in my estimation, and I don't know, I think the second raid tier is probably going to be where we deal with the Void and we put an end to the Void threat in Azeroth. The third raid tier, I'm guessing, is going to be something like we have to stop someone from calling the Titans, or there's some sort of threats or something. I think the third raid tier in Midnight is going to feed into the Last Titan. That's what I think. And I think we're not going to get a true conclusion to the story until the final raid tier, which I'm hoping is Aman'Thul, and we team up with a Ridicron and just punch him in the face or something, something like that. There's one component that I wanted to mention, though, that is not really addressed at all through any of this. We have no clue about what this means. And that missing component is Elune. Elune is friends with the Winter Queen. She knows her. It's her sister. Who is Elune? We don't know. The Night Elves call her Elune. The Tauren call her Anshe or something. I'm not a Tauren, so I don't know. But regardless, Elune, the goddess of the moon, the goddess of nature, the goddess of, Elune kind of covers a lot of territory, right? And we can speculate a lot on who Elune is and where she is and how she's able to communicate with different beings. We know that Elune is not just on Azeroth. She talks to other people, other races, other planets. We found that out in the Shadowlands. Unless they're planning to retcon that particular component, I'm suspecting that Elune is another world soul, and that Azeroth actually is going to end up like Elune. I'm guessing, and I don't know, I'm just speculating here, that Azeroth as a world soul has all of the different cosmological forces in her. She is those forces: light, disorder, death, shadow, order, life. She's all of them. The Titans are all order. And so what the Titans want is they want to get rid of all of the other components and have her just be order like they are. Xal'atath obviously wants her to be void. Maybe the Naru want her to be light. I don't know. But I think, and I'm just guessing here, I think Elune is probably another world soul that was either destroyed and it's her spirit, or she's able to communicate over great distances, like with the Radiant Song or something along those lines. I think that that's why Elune is kind of hanging out with Azeroth, because she's like, oh, I better make sure that this world soul makes it okay, because the Titans are kind of dicks. That's my big speculation, is that, it's actually going to be Elune is another world soul that is able to communicate over great distances. And maybe she's here, maybe she's in a slightly alternate dimension or something. I'd be willing to bet we're going to finally see Elune at the end of The Last Titan. I think that's my guess. Because anything else doesn't make sense. there is no the Titans are the pantheon here, right? Those are the gods that we know in Azeroth, in World of Warcraft. Those are the gods. So anybody else, it's like, well, it's not like there's another god somewhere. So what is a world soul, and why is it that the Titans are so intent on pushing their magic onto Azeroth? I think it's because the world souls are able to utilize all of these different elements and all of the different components of the cosmological forces, and they want to get rid of, everybody wants to get rid of the other components of it. And I think that's what we're going to end up doing. We need to save Azeroth so that we can preserve her as this being. And maybe it's that, you know, maybe there's not a giant creature inside. You know, this isn't like not the Avengers, the Eternals movie, where the Tiamat comes out of the ocean and it's like a giant robot. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe a world soul is really just a soul. It's just that the world has a soul and the ability to communicate. And Azeroth, as a child, or as a young world soul, does not have the ability to communicate with us in the way that someone like Elune maybe does. So that's my guess. I don't know. Where do I think the story's going to end up? I do think that we're going to end up fighting Aman'Thul as the final boss. Maybe we're going to help Azeroth as Azeroth fights Aman'Thul. I don't know. But I think that that's where this is going to end. I don't know that Eridikron's ever going to get to punch Aman'Thul in the face. As much as I'd love to see that and love to see him get validated and be like, see, I told you the Titans were jerks. I don't know that we'll get that, but it'd be pretty cool if we did. I also don't think that Sylvanas, I don't think that Xal'atath is making it out of this expansion. I was speculating that, maybe she'll be a villain all the way through. I think that we're gonna deal with her before the end, maybe in the final raid. I don't think she's making it to the next one though, because the Void threat is current and imminent. And I think that that's what's going to bring the Titans to us. But also, I think the only way to stop it is to eradicate Xal'atath. And I think that's what's going to happen. So would it be cool if she still hung around as a villain occasionally? Maybe. I don't know. But I think her story is very much tied to the World Soul Saga and what we're seeing here. So, yeah, I think that's where we're going to end up, where things are going to go. So, but we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. Season 2 or patch 12.1 will be around BlizzCon, so we really won't know anything new until then. I mean, obviously we're going to get the announcement of what it's going to be and when it's going to come out as we get closer to that time. But yeah, we've got several months of just pure speculation, which is fun. It's fun to speculate, but it's also frustrating because it's like, I want to know how the story goes. So, which is honestly one of the reasons why so many people hated this cinematic, because it didn't actually tell us anything. It just teased a bunch of stuff and ended. And so people are frustrated because they're like, why don't you just say, hey, here's what's going on? But that's not how Blizzard writes. So take it or leave it. All right. That's going to wrap up our show for this week. Thank you so much for listening. It is always a pleasure and a privilege to get on this microphone and speak to you. And the video's back. So if you want to watch this on YouTube, go ahead and check it out. But, maybe it's better to just listen. I don't know. If you have any questions or comments about the podcast, or if you have a particular topic that you'd like to hear discussed, you can jump on our Discord server and post a question there. We do have a section where you could talk about the podcast and podcast thoughts and ideas, anything that you want to hear. So you can go to AzerothUnitedPod.com, jump on the Discord, say hello, and join in the conversations there. If you are enjoying the show and you would like to help us out, there's a couple ways you could do that. You could consider leaving us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Those really help out our distribution. So if you're inclined to do so, we'd be very grateful. If you're watching us on YouTube, you could help us out by giving us a like and a subscribe, and by leaving a comment, even if it's just a thumbs up emoji, just for engagement. That really does actually help. So if you want to do that, you certainly are welcome to do so. The other way that you could help us out is by joining our Patreon. That's where people can give their IRL money to help out with the production costs and subscriptions for the show. It's not a ton that I am putting out to do the show, but I've had enough people say, hey, I want to help you out, that we do have the Patreon in place, and you're more than welcome to do that. You can join as a free member if you just want to get on there and see what's going on. There's also 2 paid tiers. There's the $1 tier, which is our standard tier, and then a $3 tier, which is our friend of the show patron tier. So I do want to thank our friend of the show patrons right now. They are Stuglife, Thelial, Greybeard, Raven, Azerin, and Agro Management. Thank you all so much for your support. And thank you to all of our patrons. You guys definitely help make Azeroth United possible. And I think that's it. That's the whole show. So thank you again for listening. Thank you for watching, if you are watching. Remember to be good to each other out there. That's a real person on the other side of that keyboard. And maybe they don't like the Race to World First. And maybe they think that, well, Sylvanas is a punk. That's okay. You know what? It's okay to have different opinions and to like or dislike different things. It's fine. Just be nice to each other. Just smile and nod and say, oh, it's okay. We're all enjoying World of Warcraft, and that's what matters. All right. Take care. I love you all, and I'll see you in Azeroth.